In my soul, I know you are good. So I have a proposition for you. We keep each other good.
Keep each other good.
It's finally time. We've talked about Beck, we've talked about Love, we've talked about Marianne, and we've talked about Bronte. So the time has finally come to talk about Joe's second wife and the most hypocritical of all the women he's ever dated, Kate Lockwood. I put off talking about Kate for a long time for the sole reason that she was introduced in season 4, which was not only the worst season of this show, it's one of the worst pieces of television I've ever watched.
Horse shit!
Season 4 wasn't just bad. The shit was shockingly bad. You know how crazy it is to watch 3 seasons of Heat only to get hit with absolute basura? The only thing season 4 did that was of any value was bring back Victoria Pedretti for one scene when Joe hallucinated her and introduce Nadia. Solely because it made way for her season 5 performance, not even a season 4 one. Season 4 read like the stupidest fan fiction imaginable, and it really thought it was doing something. That's what's so annoying about it. They think because they put Joe in a tweed jacket that means something. I just really can't get over how silly it was. I supposed to believe Joe Goldberg, a broke-ass white man with no degree or credentials of any kind, who was already suspected of murders in New York, murdered his wife and faked his death in California. And instead of keeping a low profile, he has somehow fled to England, where he is now working as a college professor, a higher profile life than he ever lived, despite being an immigrant on fake papers. And he's able to infiltrate the friend group of the wealthiest people in Europe and just casually murder the wealthiest people in Europe's children, all one by one with no pushback. Oh, I just can't even finish addressing the silly shit of the season. Joe is a who couldn't even get a full-time position at the library in Madre Linda. This best job was working at Mr. Mooney bookstore basically in exchange for shelter. Joey ain't never seen the inside of a college classroom if he wasn't in there stalking back. But now that he has murdered his wife and faked his death and fled to Europe and supposed to be keeping a low profile, he just easily secured a job as a college professor. Do not piss me off, yeah? The point is, Kate was not only introduced in a ass season, she also had the most ass bob I've ever seen in my life. And I really cannot explain to y'all how unreasonable it is to hate a mother for having a ass bob. But I did. But I did. Kate was when Joe stopped making even a little piece of sense. If you could be crashing out over a woman, at least make it make sense. Candace, Beck, Love, Marianne, okay. But you kill your wife and drop your child off on people's doorstep to chase black baddies to Europe, only to get distracted by ass bobs and alabaster skin? I knew Joe had lost his mind off that alone. They didn't need to show me he was hallucinating and whodunit mysteries to prove that to me. I knew. And they wanted me to believe that not only was Joe trip off Kate and her ass bob, so was her boyfriend and the other in the crew, both of whom Joe killed.
Not the cap.
I say, look here. Y'all really getting carried away with this fiction. I'm so ridiculous that by the time they brought Kate back for season 5, I was so grateful that ass Bob was gone. I stopped having smoke for her. I stopped having any smoke for her. I was watching season 5 like, you a morally bankrupt, self-righteous, holier than thou ass victim playing hoe. But at least you don't got that ass Bob no more. But everybody else was mad as that the series ended with Kate being painted as some kind of good person who survived Joe, when in fact, Kate was not only complicit, she was an accomplice who switched up after the fact. And that anger was valid as because that's exactly what the happened. If I don't ever give Joe Goldberg credit for nothing, I will say that he had every right to be pissed the off when the bitch who knew he killed and asked him to kill when it benefited her started looking down on him for killing. Imagine a bitch who at minimum married you knowing you killed her daddy and framed a brown girl for the murder she knew you committed, spin round and play naive, innocent victim only once you cheat on her. Kate Lockwood was an Olympic level hypocrite. And it's time to finally talk about it. Roll the theme song, Aaron.
Black independent, strongest in women. It's Olay, it's Olay, it's Olay, it's Olay now. I know that I'm worth it, so make sure to listen. It's Olay, it's Olay, it's Olay, it's Olay.
Neither Kate nor Kate and Joe's relationship made absolutely any sense. But before we delve into it, let me tell you about this video's sponsor, Brevo. Brevo is a tool that I wish more creators and business owners actually knew about. If you're running any kind of brand, whether that's a YouTube channel, a small business, or literally anything where you need to talk to your audience, Brevo basically simplifies your entire marketing setup. You can manage email campaigns, SMS, even WhatsApp and live chat, all in one place instead of juggling 5 different platforms. What I like is that it's not about sending emails. It's about actually building relationships with your audience. Brevo lets you automate messages, personalize your communication, and track what's working so you're not just shouting into the void, you're being strategic. They even have tools built in to help you create campaigns faster and smarter so you can focus on the actual content or business you're trying to grow. So if you've been looking for a way to level up how you connect with your audience and actually turn it into growth, Brevo is a really solid place to start. You can use my link in the description to get 50% off their starter and standard plans for your first 3 months if you're a new user. You hear me? I say my viewers get 50% off their starter and standard plans for 3 whole months. So click the link in my description to get started today. Thank you for sponsoring this video, Brevo. Now let's get back to it. When we meet Kate, she and her wealthy boyfriend nonsensically live directly across the way from Joe, who should not logically be anywhere in the proximity of the 1%. And I do mean directly across from his apartment window. The better to peer into strangers' apartment to be the nastiest, stalkingest nigga, my dear. But the way they try to make sense of this living situation is by telling us that Kate's boyfriend is a college professor at the college we already know it don't make no sense for Joe to be working at. And Kate hates this man from the second she meets him. Then her boyfriend is suddenly murdered after the last person anybody see him with is Joe, and she hates Joe even more and becomes rightfully more suspicious of him. So imagine the guy she hates and already don't trust joins her friend group. Then all of a sudden, all her friends in the friend group start being mysteriously murdered. So of course she's gonna be extra suspicious of the new guy she already hated and didn't trust, right? 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 No. She and Joe start and it really didn't make any sense how or why it happened, and it made even less sense why they thought we'd be into the bullshit. Joe and Kate did not have even the slightest bit of chemistry. You could search your whole life and you ain't gonna ever find the chemistry between Joe and Kate. Yet, we were somehow supposed to believe these motherfuckers had the kind of chemistry that let you look past the fact that this man is obviously murdering all of your friends.
You disingenuous, dense motherfucker.
Whole time Joe frolicking with Kate and her ass Bob, he massacring all her homies. He done forget he got Marianne locking a glass cage somewhere with his nut ass. Which is another thing that annoys me about people who take Joe's imaginary bullshit quest for love seriously. Joe just murdered his wife. He done chased Marianne to Europe and kidnapped her. And he still managed to get obsessed with a whole new bitch on a side quest. Joe on a side quest. Anyhow, so Joe Kate and murdering her friends, and the show goes from presenting Kate as this mean, angry bitch who can't stand Joe ass to like suddenly this altruistic, morally good woman who's so good that she cut off her wealthy, powerful father because she refused to do the evils of capitalism.
I ain't not buying your shit.
Understand me when I say Kate was literally a mean, icy, unpleasant rich bitch half the season. Like a whole gatekeeper, like, you don't belong around me and my wealthy friends type bitch. Then suddenly, we were supposed to see her as the nicest, goodest, most caringest bitch that's so sad her daddy, the big bad billionaire, keep doing evil rich people capitalist shit.
Oh, boo-hoo.
This a gal who man just died and she the last nigga to be seen with him, you know. Anyway, they had this gal going on all these tantrums about how her daddy's such a big bad man who keep interfering with her life, watching her every move, drowning her in nepotism and favoring her over all of his children.
Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
Joe's such a fake ass because let it had been love doing all this whining about her family and the privileges their wealth afford her, he'd have been rolling his eyes to the back of his head. In fact, that's exactly what he used to be doing when love used to be complaining about her family. But because Joe loved new bitches, Of course he say, oh, you the newest gal I'm obsessed with and you don't like somebody? Let's get to murdering. So Joe decides he gonna murder this gal daddy. The idea that you gonna murder somebody daddy and one be in a relationship with them is nuts. But what's more nuts is that Kate know that man kill her daddy and she ain't care. Kate does this thing where she is trying to pretend that she's somehow cleaning up behind all Joe murders, but don't know he's a murderer and also asking him to commit murders for her.
You're stupid.
So let me be clear for y'all, since Kate lie, and some of y'all struggle with passing through lies. When Kate and Joe got together officially in season 4, after he killed her pa and tried off himself, that gal knew Joe was a murderer. She knew he murdered his wife. She knew he was the Eat the Rich killer who killed all her friends. She knew he killed her daddy, and we know she knew because not only did Joe tell her he's a murderer, but we know because she spent bread spinning the story on Love Quinn's murder for her husband who tell her he's a murderer. She helped him frame Nadia for murder. And she literally alludes to knowing that he killed her daddy on the spot and eventually admits to it later on when he won kill her sister, after she already had him kill her uncle. I say all that to say, Kate is not a victim, no matter how they try and make it look in season 5. Kate is more akin to Love than Beck. In that, like Love, she knows what Joe is, and she's an accomplice who doesn't care so long as he loves her. And Love and Kate both use their family's money to help Joe get away with crime so that they could have their little fairy tale life with him. The difference between Love and Kate is that Kate is a hypocrite and Love is not. In fact, Kate is the exact kind of hypocrite to Joe that Joe was to Love. Joe was a murderer, judging Love for being a murderer, which rightfully frustrated Love, who could not understand why this man who do exactly what she do, vilifying her. So Joe murdered Love, only to end up being with Kate, who utilizing him for murders and wickedness at her convenience, but looking at him like a monster for doing it. Let me tell y'all, Kate really was Joe karma child. Like the classic 80-20 rule. You leave your 80% thinking, oh, you go get 100, you end up with 20, and the worst 20, because he ended up with a 20 like himself. But you can't even feel bad for Joe, because only Joe Goldberg had the kind of karma that come with billions of dollars and an easy breezy life if he could just manage not to cheat with vagabonds, with ass bobs that he meet breaking into the store his wife buy him. Let me stop before I run hard, because I get mad at myself. If there's one who squander all his Joe is a man who was getting away with murder and he squandered it to cheat.
You understand I gotta leave you, right? It ain't personal, it's pussy.
And I do want to point out, Joe used to judge the out of Love, the Quinns, and everybody in Madre Linda, acting like they just so shallow with their rich selves, using the money to do what they want, acting like he can't believe he married into such a thing. Whole time, he's sitting right up with them, reaping all the benefits of the Quinns' wealth. Then after he killed Love, he take his ass to the wealthiest Europeans he could find to get with Kate, so he could gleefully marry a billionaire who could clean up his shit for him. Joe is a who's talking. The problem with Joe is that he's not only a ass who could cheat every time, he also hates to play his position. Imagine going on a murder spree in New York City, California, and England, then doubling back to New York as a billionaire's husband and the social elite and being mad your billionaire's family and colleagues don't respect you as your CEO wife's equal.
You idiot.
You getting away with murder and have access to billions of dollars and you worrying about you don't like being a house husband.
It should have been me, not him. It's not fair.
Joe needed his ass beat up. But enough about Joe. We're here to kick Kate's back in. So the important point we need to understand about Kate is that Kate knew exactly what Joe was and what Joe was doing. Don't listen to that bullshit about she had her team and investigators do all the dirty work and not tell her about his past or what they found. Bullshit. There's literally no logical explanation under the sun for Kate to not know Joe was a murderer who at minimum killed his wife, killed her friends, her boyfriend, killed her daddy, killed his student, and framed his other student for the murderer. Not only did the man tell her he was a murderer, even if we were foolish enough to buy the la bullshit Kate was feeding us and trying to sell to Nadia, we'd know it was bullshit the second she decided that Joe should kill her uncle because he was trying to oust her as CEO of the family business. Because you can't not know your husband is a killer, then simultaneously sick him on to murder them at the drop of a dime. We know it was bullshit when her immediate course of action after finding out Joe was cheating was to go see Nadia in prison and tell her that she helped Joe frame her for murder. Kate knew exactly what she was doing, and she could miss us with, oh, she never look at the file. That's just a bitch looking for plausible deniability. If your man tell you, hey, I's a murderer, and his wife did recently come up dead, and he done fucking flee to a different nation. He going by a different name. He infiltrate your friend group. Now everybody in the group dead. Your daddy dead. You know he killed your daddy. You know he killed Reese. What the are you talking about?
I give it to you. You got me there.
Now you framing evidence on little brown girls. What are you talking about? Just like Love figured out exactly who and what Joe was long before he told her, so too did Kate. And whilst both wanted to be with him anyway, only Love was willing to admit to the reality of who he was, because Love saw herself in Joe and didn't think anything was wrong with what she saw. Whereas Kate wanted to maintain plausible deniability so that she wouldn't have to take herself off the pedestal in her mind. Which is why both women handle the chance to acknowledge who they've already discovered Joe is so much differently. When Love finds Joe locked in the cage next to Delilah's dead body, Love kills Candace to protect Joe and admits to Joe that she'd already discovered his real identity and that he'd killed Beck, and she loved him and wanted to be with him. When Kate sees Joe in the hospital after he'd murdered her father and attempted to take himself out the game, Joe tells Kate he's a murderer. Moments later, she acknowledges that her father and Reese were murdered, then implies that her father made Joe kill Reese and that that's why he killed her father. And Joe tells that gal, made is a strong word. In other words, that man ain't make me do nothing. Kate dismisses him and says the police won't know who killed them. Joe tells her don't cover it up for me, and the gal says it's done. She knew exactly who Joe was. And just like Love, when shit hit the fan, she didn't give a and she helped him get away with it. The only difference is Love wasn't making up imaginary nice guy nonsense to pretend Joe or she was something else as it pertains to being murderers. Kate wanted to sell herself dreams, which is why Kate and Joe and Love have so much in common, which is why both Kate and Love end up losing Joe's affection because of the different ways they each remind him of himself. Love was Joe in the sense that they were both impulsive, obsessive, violent killers, but whilst Love saw them clearly, Joe rationalized his crimes and came up with delusional justifications to distinguish his actions from Love's by considering her murders cold-blooded and impulsive and wicked and his necessary. Joe could not love Love because he saw clearly in her the monster he hated but refused to recognize in himself. But by the time Joe was with Kate in season 5, he's no longer deluding himself about who he is. He's no longer pretending to hate killing people or that killing people is an accidental collateral consequence of his quest for love. He's accepted who he is and that he enjoys killing people if need be. Meaning, he's now exactly who he hated Love for being. And like Love, he ended up married to a motherfucker who want to act morally superior to their mirror image, which is why Kate was like Joe, because she looked at Joe just as he looked at Love, with contempt and zero self-awareness. Which is why I think Kate was not only Joe's karma, in some ways, she was worse than Love, despite never actually doing any of the killings herself. Because just like Joe was running around acting like Love was a nut-ass killer and he was a good house husband raising the baby trying to clean up after her nut shit, that's exactly how Kate tried to play the victim like, oh, my serial killer husband cheating on me after I done help him get away with murder, frame innocent brown gals, request him to murder people, and help him steal his child back from the nice gay couple he left the child with after he murdered the child, mommy, so I could play mommy to the child too. Please. Kate don't self-blame me, yeah? Y'all remember how much judgment Joe passed on Love for even thinking about framing Ellie for murder to protect him? Only to spin right round and marry Kate for framing Nadia for his murders. And in Love plan, she was planning to make sure Ellie got off. Kate sent Nadia ass straight to prison. The double standards was ridiculous, child. But it don't matter anyway, because it don't matter what Kate or Love did do. Eventually, Joe was gonna do what Joe do. No woman could please him. He could cheat. He could move on because he liked the fantasy. But anyway, Kate was the only bitch who would cover up her serial killing husband killing her daddy, ask him to kill her uncle, and then spin round and act judgmental when he decide her bitch sister should be fair game too. Some bitches have too much information to spin round and play victim, and both Kate and Bronte are them bitches. Love knew better than to try that shit with us, and that's why we fucked with her. Love ain't pretend not to be a crazy bitch. She was a nut bitch, but she was our nut bitch. And yet, it's somehow our bitch Love who bite the dust, and they had the nerve to end the series with these two hoes, Bronte and Kate, surviving and thriving like we give a rat's ass. Which brings me to another thing. The only thing stupider than Bronte saving Joe from dying in a fire just to spend the entirety of the next episode trying to figure out how to kill him was her trying to convince us she was doing it to get justice for Beck, like she's some type of champion for women who were victims of this man. Meanwhile, she done dragged the murderer to freedom and left his wife, who husband she been on in the basement, to burn to death.
This just ain't right.
Y'all understand that? Bronte gone down there to a burning basement, saw the murderer, and then saw Kate and say, who should I save? And then this gal decided she could only save one and use her strength to drag Joe to freedom. That's who they had the nerve to give a slow motion survivor fairy tale ending. I have to laugh, yeah? Because if I don't laugh, I'll cuss. And the only thing crazier than Bronte leaving Kate to die in the fire was Kate somehow surviving, being shot, passed out, and left to die in a locked basement that was on fire. I saw that shit. I said, y'all gotta stop with the bullshit here. Y'all survived a fire with only one arm of burns, and now she living a happily ever after life with her billions, raising love son that she helped daddy get custody of after he killed her. Like I said, I didn't hate Kate by season 5 because Bronte replaced her as the queen of dumbass bitches with ass bobs, but I still know some bullshit when I see it. And Kate's redemption arc was some bullshit, because that gal was just as complicit as Love was. And Love would have never dare be creased up in a room with bitches like Marianne and Nadia and Bronte playing victim after spending who knows how much money covering up Joe crimes. Tough. And that's why Kate Lockwood was a villain in her own right. If you enjoyed the video you just watched, it's your lucky day because you just found it on one of 7 channels inside my Olurinati-verse. Subscribe to Olurinati, my flagship channel, where you'll find my magnum opuses like If Pretty is a Privilege, Ugly is a Curse, How This Didn't Age Well Destroyed Media Literacy, How Men Become Aziz Ansari, and more. Subscribe to Olurinati Pop for my TV and film essays on shows like How I Met Your Mother, Sex and the City, Desperate Housewives, You, Euphoria, Insecure, and so many more. You can also join Olurinati Pop on Patreon to watch all of my YouTube videos uncensored. Subscribe to Olurinati Bites for short, serious, and nuanced commentary on whatever the internet is spiraling about. Subscribe to Olay and Chill if you're trying to laugh and chill while unpacking the latest TikTok chaos. Subscribe to Olurinati Politics for sharp breakdowns of the political moments shaping our lives right now. Subscribe to Olurinati Extras for music commentary and industry deep dives. Subscribe to Olay and Friends to watch your favorite Black thinkers and creators dissect the culture. Subscribe to any or all the channels in the Olurinati-verse that speak to you, and I'll see you there. And you can also follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky at Olurinati. And you can also follow Olurinati Pop and Olay and Chill on Instagram and TikTok so you never miss a thing. If you enjoyed this video about you, it's your lucky day because I have more you videos where this came from. Click the one being recommended on your screen right now.